That's my gimmick, the head tilt and the finger snap. Today, because I'm so clever, not really, I'm going to do 12 Days of Christmas for by Kilian to keep my channel active fragrance-wise. I've said this before, but by Kilian actually has a lot of fragrances that I would actually potentially wear. And if you know me, I can be kind of a hard sell. I don't just spend my disposable income on anything. So the fact that I could even say that there's 12 by Kilian fragrances that I would potentially wear is actually a pretty good testament to the company, I think, right? Or the brand, whatever you want to call it, right? So let's talk about 12 fragrances for Christmas, right? That I would actually potentially just wear, right? So the first one, let's talk about a couple. Unfortunately, I've heard they've been discontinued. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Let's talk about a couple discontinued ones. And all these fragrances are in no order particularly, but first one, Light My Fire. I've heard this has been discontinued. Um, I've said this before, Light My Fire is one of the only fragrances that you can actually smell kind of that, is it either cumin or caraway or whatever it is, that kind of stank smell, but I still think it smells good. And it kind of smells like, and it even got better to me when someone, I was reading a review, they said it smelled like Dr. Pepper. And I was like, holy shit, dude. And I could not get that out of my head. Anytime I ever smell this now, it really does. I can smell the Dr. Pepper. It's like some kind of tobacco, cigar, cigarette, whatever, flavored Dr. Pepper tobacco scent. And you know what I mean? Like maybe little honey sparkles, specks of, the a glaze maybe even of Dr. Pepper. I think it smells really interesting. It's really novelty. It's got that great kind of boozy tinge to it, a little bit of a sparkle. I think in terms of a green tobacco, in terms of being a boozy, kind of like green, sparkly tobacco, when I think of this, maybe even just boozy tobaccos, period, I think of only other fragrances that I think compare are, Daniel Hosier's, whatever, Amber Tobacco. That is a very kind of boozy, sparkly green tobacco. But that's just in the beginning. And even, I guess, I won't go there. I won't go there. But anyway, I think it's a great scent. Definitely worth checking out, even though it's been discontinued if you can. And another thing I forgot to mention when I talk about all the booze in by Kilian fragrances, I think it's interesting too because a lot of these fragrances they have kind of that alcoholic tinge to it, which makes it a little bit more fun to the fragrance connoisseur, I guess. Another fragrance that's been discontinued, unfortunately, that I heard is Amber Oud. Again, not a very oudy fragrance, but I would describe that as a imagine you got a piece of firewood and you're about to start your little fire because it's cold out, and you turn the piece of firewood into a orange Jolly Rancher, an orange amber Jolly Rancher. You throw it into the fire, and when you start your little fire by the fireside, you of course light it with that kind of by Kilian, whatever they use fragrance wise for the notes, that DNA of that boozy kind of tinge to it, that sparkle. That's what you lit the fire with. Again, I think it's an interesting scent. Another scent a little bit more popular in the community than it is with me, but I do think it smells good is apple brandy. Apple brandy kind of smell with also kind of a caramel appleness to it. Good smell. Not something I feel completely compelled to buy. You know what I mean? Maybe if I was rich, I might get a decant of it, but not something I would be against wearing, which again, we're doing 12 days of by Kilian. So even having 12 fragrances that I would potentially wear from them is pretty interesting, right? Next one, I'll do Vodka on the Rocks. Vodka on the Rocks is kind of like a mishmash of, say, something like Curve, uh, Abercrombie and Fierce's Fierce, and for Pond's Luministe. Put those together. That's kind of the vibe of Vodka on the Rocks, a nice kind of fresh scent. So again, it's got that boozy kind of smell to it. So Curve, Fierce, and Luministe. Add those together. That's what you got there. Another fragrance I'll do is I'm gonna look at my list to make sure I go through all of these correctly. What else do we have? Smoke for the Soul. I think Smoke for the Soul reminds me of being a stoner more so than what is it? Nasamato's. What is the Nasa? Afghano, Black Afghano, right? I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, Black Afghano smells so much like weed, whatever." I don't really think of weed or being a stoner really when I smell Black Afghano. It was just kind of like one of those. I've described Black Afghano as one of those things that was. People are always like, "Oh, it's so interesting," blah 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 blah. But when I smelled it, it was just another fragrance in the fragrance journey to me. Another Pokemon collector, got to collect them all. I wasn't totally impressed or blown away with it in a negative or a positive way, actually. But Smoke for the Soul is a fragrance that I can smell and I can be like, yeah, that kind of this does remind me of weed. I think it's an interesting scent. And again, it's got that alcoholic tinge to it, which makes it smell interesting. Another one, Intoxicated, one of the best coffee scents out there, I think. The alcoholic tinge in this one does make it kind of smell, the beginning of it, it's kind of weird, kind of smells like a bit of a urinal, like a cleaning agent that you use to clean a urinal. Kind of weird. The alcoholic tinge in this does kind of make it smell like that for the beginning, but after that, a great, very thick hot chocolate coffee kind of scent. You know what I mean? Some people think it smells a little bit like Amen. Maybe it's got a little bit of that, but this is just so much better than the original Amen. Don't even think about that. Next one, single malt. I think single malt is probably. It would be hard for me to think of a better woody scent. Like when I think of scents that smell kind of like wood chips or sawdust, whatever. Scents with a strong smell, a strong whisper, more than a whisper, a strong smell of like wood chips, sawdust. I definitely think that this might be the best I've ever smelled. Definitely one of the best woody smells. I could probably try to think of a better ones that have such a strong woody smell, but again, the wood smell in this is very strong. Almost smells like kind of like there's a tree and you're sawing the tree and purple plum sap is coming out of it, boozy plum sap. Something people think has a little bit of a tobacco smell to it. But yeah, imagine you got this tree, when you're sawing down the tree, just really thick, syrupy plum, booziness comes out. It's a good sign. I would own that if I had more money. Back to Black, another really popular one in the community. I feel like Back to Black, it's one of those things, I've said this before, in terms of what people say in the community, it is something that I actually find in real life. Most people just think it smells like baby powder, but most people, I feel like this year I didn't get as many compliments on it, but I feel like last year was it when I was doing my compliment videos, I had a year where I was getting, I had some pretty good reactions on it, but not a top compliment getter from me still, even though some people say it does amazing. A lot of people just think it smells like baby powder, but again, I describe that as there's a whole bunch of notes on that. Imagine you have a big golden lake of honey, and you dive in this golden lake of honey, and you're trying to actually find the notes that are in the fragrance. Some stick out more than others, and then when you get out the golden lake of honey, you're wiping yourself down with like a wet baby wipe, baby powder, whatever, to clean yourself. That's how I would describe that one. Back to Black. Other one, Black Phantom. I feel like Black Phantom. Maybe I saw a review where, excuse me, was there a couple reviews? I feel like I saw some people saying that it's actually the most sold by Kilian now or something like that. Black Phantom, it doesn't exactly call coffee to mind for me, but it does remind me of something that you might smell or buy at a Starbucks or something like that. It is a drink kind of like, gourmand kind of scent, more of like a chocolate kind of boozy drink. Maybe maybe a little bit of a coffee kind of drink, but maybe some like powdered coffee or, vice versa, whatever it is. Again, I don't want to say it totally reminds me of coffee because I'm a bit of what actually smells like coffee snob, maybe. Not that I'm a coffee snob, just fragrance coffee, what reminds me of coffee, I guess. But kind of reminds me of whatever kind of drink you get, your gourmand drink, you know what I mean, this thick kind of drink. And imagine almost like the alcoholic boozy tinge in this one is maybe the whipped cream was made out of alcohol or something like that. So you get your drink at Starbucks, your chocolate drink, maybe a little bit of coffee, caramel. Yeah, lots of caramel in this one. And they give you whipped cream, and it's an alcoholic whipped cream that gives it that tinge throughout the fragrance. I've also described this one as if you've ever smelled Amber Accentrio, I think from the Armani Privé line, this has that same kind of thickness and scent bubble around you, kind of similar to me. Nice smelling scent again. Oh, the next one, Norah Aphrodisiac. This is almost kind of like a fresh gourmand. I would describe this one as, imagine you got this yuzu or citron or whatever kind of fruit it is that they used in this thing. And imagine you're peeling away the fruit, and when you peel away the fruit, it's giving away a sort of the citrus. It's giving away a sort of thick, kind of like slightly chocolate, kind of like clean mist or something like that. Smoke as you're peeling the fruit. Again, there's a boozy tinge to this one, which almost most of these fragrances have that make it very interesting. Norah aphrodisiac, not exactly a total gourmand because it doesn't really get that chocolate. You got to peel away the fruit, the citron, the yuzu, whatever kind of fruit smell, citrus that they're using for this one. Not a total gourmand, but a good fresh kind of scent with a bit of a gourmand touch at the end that you're peeling away too. Next one by Kilian's Love. I've gotten compliments on this, even though it's a girl fragrance. I like sweet fragrances, so it doesn't bother me. Um, Again, this is supposed to be a marshmallow fragrance, but I would actually say it's a pastel marshmallow. There's a difference, right? I've always said that. There's marshmallows, and then there's those kind of like pastel marshmallows that you can buy, right? This is a pastel marshmallow, right? I actually have not smelled the newest one. I think it came out earlier this year. I've never seen it at a by Kilian. I think it's like the Love Fresh or something like that. Still haven't smelled it, but the regular Love is a great one. I like that one. And the final ones, I think, is that 12? Hopefully I'm at 12. Hopefully. Straight to Heaven and Straight to Heaven Extreme. Straight to Heaven, I have described as, I feel like some people say Back to Black when by Kilian was catching steam was the most sexy one. I always thought that Straight to Heaven is the most sexy one. One of the best compliments I can give Straight to Heaven is that it is one of the only fragrances that ever grew on me. When I first smelled it, I was like, wow, dude, I don't know if I'm going to be able to wear this. I thought maybe it was too out there, too old smelling, but it kind of grew on me, right? I would describe it as a really well dressed older dude, kind of dude, daddy mode, sexy dude with a suit on, and he's getting drunk, kind of like in the forest, right? Out of place visually, but not out of place smell wise, right? And maybe his friend, his friend is that's like the kind of older dude that holds his drink better, while something like VIP 212 Men is your friend that wears 1 million, but he gets drunk at all the parties. But this dude, he doesn't get drunk, right? I do think though that if I could go back in time, because I only have like a 5 ml of Straight to Heaven Extreme, I definitely would have got the Extreme instead because it's just more vanilla. More vanilla. It smells more fruity. More of that boozy, fruity vanilla. More rum, I guess. That tinge. I just think it still smells a little bit older, but it still smells sexy. You know what I mean? And it is something that I said before. I actually have gotten compliments on it. It has been a deceptive compliment getter for me. So I definitely, like I said, I would recommend the Extreme one. I've heard the Extreme one was discontinued as well, but then I think I saw they might be bringing it back. I don't know if you can get the Extreme one. I recommend the Extreme one because it's more sweet, more vanilla, and it's still is a vibe fragrance too, right? So great vibe fragrance, one of the best vibe fragrances I think I've ever smelled, right? So that's my by Kilian 12 Days of Christmas fragrances. Keeping my channel active fragrance wise. I still got to smell that. Supposedly Jeremy Fragrance was sending a date for men to all the reviewers except for me. He said he was sending it to all the reviewers. So I gotta give shit, dude. I gotta give shit, dude. I gotta call it like he said he was sending it to all the reviewers. His brother has actually commented on my channel before, but he wasn't gonna send it to me, so I thought that was pretty interesting. But it is what it is. I gotta get a sample of that to review it eventually, right? So maybe that'll be the next review if I get a sample of that date from him. We'll see what's going on. Anyway,